The massive Zetharian warship, Eternal Conquest, emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. Its crystalline hull gleamed with an otherworldly iridescence as it sliced through the void, its very presence a testament to technological superiority. Supreme Commander Vex 427 stood at the bridge's observation deck, his four eyes narrowing as they focused on the blue planet ahead. Preliminary scans complete, Supreme Commander, announced Chief Scientist Mira 891, her tentacles dancing across the holographic interface. The dominant species appears to have achieved basic spaceflight, but their technology is primitive by our standards. No energy shields, no quantum computing, not even basic antimatter containment. Vex 427's secondary heart pulsed with anticipation. This would be an easy conquest, another jewel in the crown of the Zetharian Empire. Their civilization had conquered 37 worlds across 3 galaxies, and each victory had been easier than the last. Their biomechanical technology, a perfect fusion of organic and artificial materials, had proven unbeatable. What of their defensive capabilities? Vex 427 inquired, his voice resonating with the metallic undertone characteristic of his species' cybernetic enhancements. Laughable, Supreme Commander, responded military strategist Kral 156. Their most advanced weapons rely on chemical propulsion and crude nuclear fission. Our hull's adaptive crystalline matrix could withstand their entire arsenal without strain. The bridge crew continued their preparations, none of them paying particular attention to the atmospheric analysis scrolling across their screens. The data showed expected compositions: nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide. But buried in the data were readings they dismissed as insignificant. Billions of microscopic life forms, each evolving over millions of years in a complex dance of survival. Deploy the advanced scouts, Vex 427 ordered. Standard protocol: atmospheric sampling, gravity assessment, and preliminary defensive evaluation. 3 smaller craft detached from the Eternal Conquest, their crystalline structures morphing to create the most aerodynamic configurations possible. As they descended into Earth's atmosphere, the first unexpected reading came through. Supreme Commander called out Sensor Officer Tyla 624. "I'm detecting unusual interaction between our scout ship's outer layers and the planet's atmosphere." Elaborate, Vex 427 commanded, still unconcerned. "The crystalline matrix is showing signs of degradation." "That's impossible. Our technology is self-repairing." The scout ships continued their descent, their outer layers beginning to dull and pit. Microscopic Earth organisms, evolved to break down organic matter, found the biomechanical components of Zetharian technology to be an unexpected but welcome food source. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen stood in her laboratory at the Atmospheric Research Center, staring at her readings with growing excitement. "These bacterial counts are off the charts," she muttered to her colleague, Dr. James Rodriguez. "Something in the upper atmosphere is causing our indigenous microbes to multiply at an unprecedented rate." Neither scientist knew they were witnessing humanity's first line of defense against an alien invasion. The very organisms they studied daily, the bacteria that broke down everything from fallen leaves to industrial waste, were already at work protecting their planet. Back on the Eternal Conquest, the situation was deteriorating. The scout ship's communications became erratic, their signals distorted by failing systems. The crystalline matrix, the pride of Zetharian engineering, was being eaten alive by Earth's microscopic defenders. "Impossible," Mira 891 whispered, her tentacles trembling as she analyzed the data. "Our technology has survived the caustic atmospheres of gas giants, the radiation of neutron stars. How can this primitive world's air be affecting us?" Vex 427 watched in growing horror as the scout ship's signals winked out one by one. Their supposedly invincible technology was being undone not by advanced weapons or clever strategies, but by the simplest forms of life on Earth. "Full retreat," he ordered, his voice heavy with disbelief. Recall all ships immediately. But it was too late for the scouts. Their crystalline structures, now compromised by Earth's bacterial life, began to break down completely. As they fell from the sky like shooting stars, humanity remained largely unaware that they had just won their first interstellar war, not through military might or technological advancement, but through the invisible armies that had evolved alongside them for billions of years. The eternal conquest turned away from Earth, its crew shaken by the realization that their superior technology had been defeated by microscopic life forms they had dismissed as insignificant. In their rush to demonstrate their power, they had forgotten a fundamental truth. Sometimes the smallest things in the universe could be the most powerful. The Zetharian High Council chamber buzzed with agitation. 12 of the most powerful beings in 3 galaxies gathered around a floating hologram of Earth, their cybernetic enhancements glinting in the dim light. Supreme Commander Vex 427's report had sent shockwaves through their empire. Unacceptable, declared High Counselor Draz 001, his crystalline exoskeleton shifting colors with his anger. One primitive planet's atmosphere cannot be allowed to humiliate the greatest empire in known space. The council chamber's walls, constructed from the same biomechanical crystal as their ships, seemed to pulse with the collective frustration of its occupants. Chief Scientist Mira 891 stepped forward, her tentacles now encased in protective sheaths after showing signs of degradation from the scout mission. Honorable Council, our initial analysis was flawed, she admitted. Earth's atmosphere hosts an ecosystem of unprecedented complexity. These microorganisms don't just exist. They work together, adapt, evolve. They've turned the planet's entire atmosphere into a living defense system. Then we'll sterilize it, growled War Minister Koth 789. Our plasma weapons can. No, interrupted Mira 891. Any attempt to sterilize their atmosphere would render the planet useless for colonization. These organisms are fundamental to Earth's biological processes. Without them, the planet would become a dead world. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen's discovery was causing its own kind of upheaval. Her team had isolated several new bacterial strains from the upper atmosphere, each displaying unprecedented characteristics. Look at this, she told Dr. Rodriguez, pointing to her microscope. These bacteria are breaking down materials we thought were indestructible. The rate of decomposition is unlike anything we've ever seen. What they didn't know was that they were looking at the remains of Zetharian crystal technology, now being systematically dismantled by Earth's microscopic defenders. The bacteria had found the alien biomechanical materials to be rich in nutrients, and were reproducing at extraordinary rates to consume this new food source. Back in Zetharian space, the High Council had authorized a second mission, this time with modified technology. The ship Relentless Purpose approached Earth's orbit, its hull now coated with what they believed to be impervious to biological attack. New protection protocols engage, reported Captain Yara 562. Our enhanced crystal matrix should resist any microscopic interference. The Relentless Purpose began its descent into Earth's atmosphere, its sensors on high alert for any sign of degradation. At first, everything seemed to be working as planned. The new coating held, but Earth's defenders had evolved over billions of years to break down every kind of organic material. The bacteria quickly began to adapt, producing new enzymes to digest the modified Zetharian technology. Within hours, the ship's protective coating began to fail. Impossible. Yara 562 shouted as warning signals flooded her command console. They're learning. The organisms are actually evolving to counter our modifications. In her lab, Dr. Chen watched her atmospheric readings with growing excitement. James, look at these mutation rates. Whatever stimulated these bacteria is causing them to evolve new capabilities at an unprecedented pace. They're developing novel decomposition pathways in real time. The Relentless Purpose struggled to maintain its structural integrity as it retreated from Earth's atmosphere. Its once pristine crystal hull was now pocked and clouded, compromised by countless microscopic attackers. The failure of the second mission threw the Zetharian Empire into crisis. For the first time in their history of conquest, they faced an enemy they couldn't simply overpower or outmaneuver. Earth's defensive system operated on a scale so small they could barely comprehend it, yet so vast it encompassed the entire planet. We must understand how these organisms communicate, Mira 891 insisted to the High Council. They coordinate their attacks with an efficiency that rivals our neural networks. Somehow, Earth's atmosphere itself has become a biological computer, processing information and adapting strategies faster than our technology can counter. The truth was even more remarkable than the Zetharians realized. Earth's atmospheric microbiome wasn't just defending against them. It was learning from each encounter, becoming more efficient at breaking down their technology. Every failed invasion attempt only made Earth's microscopic defenders stronger. As the relentless purpose limped back to Zetharian space, its crew couldn't know they had just participated in a crucial moment in Earth's history. Humanity's first line of defense against alien invasion wasn't their militaries or their technologies. It was the countless billions of microscopic allies that had evolved alongside them. Guardians too small to see but powerful enough to humble an interstellar empire. The Zetharian research facility orbiting their homeworld's largest moon hummed with activity. Banks of quantum computers processed data from the failed Earth missions, while teams of scientists studied samples of their degraded crystal technology. Chief Scientist Mira 891 floated in her suspension tank, her tentacles interfacing directly with the facility's mainframe as she analyzed the latest results. "Extraordinary," she murmured, her neural implants transmitting the data directly to Supreme Commander Vex 427. These Earth organisms don't just consume our technology, they're using it to evolve. Each generation becomes more efficient at breaking down our materials. The Supreme Commander's exoskeleton darkened with concern. How quickly are they adapting? Faster than anything we've encountered in 3 galaxies of conquest. Their reproductive cycle is measured in minutes, not days. Each new generation carries improvements, refinements. They're essentially upgrading themselves using our own technology as raw material. On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen's laboratory had become the center of intense military and scientific interest. Her discovery of the rapidly evolving bacteria in the upper atmosphere had caught the attention of governments worldwide. Something was causing these microscopic life forms to develop entirely new capabilities, and no one could explain why. The genetic changes we're seeing shouldn't be possible, Dr. Chen explained to a room full of military officials and scientists. These bacteria are developing complex enzymatic systems that can break down materials we've never seen before. It's as if they're preparing for something. Dr. Rodriguez pulled up a holographic display showing the bacteria's evolutionary timeline. Look at these adaptation rates. They're not just random mutations. There's a pattern here. The bacteria are developing specialized abilities to break down very specific types of molecular structures. What they couldn't know was that these structures matched the unique crystalline matrix of Zetharian technology perfectly. Earth's microscopic defenders were essentially creating a blueprint for defeating any future invasion attempts. In the Zetharian research facility, a junior scientist named Peld 044 made a disturbing discovery. Chief Scientist, the degradation isn't limited to our crystal technology. The Earth organisms are starting to affect our biological components as well. Mira 891 quickly accessed the new data. The microscopic Earth life wasn't just breaking down their ships, it was learning to attack the cybernetic enhancements that were fundamental to Zetharian biology. Their entire civilization relied on the fusion of organic and artificial materials, a synthesis that had made them the dominant force in their known universe, until now. "This changes everything," she transmitted to the High Council. "These organisms pose a direct threat to our species, if they can adapt to break down our cybernetic components." The implications were clear. Any Zetharian who visited Earth would risk having their vital enhancements destroyed by the planet's microscopic defenders. Their greatest strength, Their technological integration had become their greatest vulnerability. Meanwhile, Dr. Chen's team made another breakthrough. They discovered that the bacteria weren't working in isolation. Viral particles were transferring genetic information between different bacterial species, creating a vast network of shared adaptations. Earth's atmosphere was essentially functioning as a gigantic evolutionary laboratory. "It's beautiful," Dr. Chen whispered, watching through her quantum microscope as the microorganisms exchanged genetic material. They're working together, sharing information, building on each other's innovations. Our atmosphere isn't just a mixture of gases. It's a living shield. The Zetharian High Council faced an unprecedented crisis. Their empire had been built on the assumption that their biomechanical technology was superior to any natural system. Now they faced an enemy that turned nature itself into a weapon. "We cannot risk direct contact with Earth," War Minister Koth 789 concluded. "Their biological weapons are too unpredictable, too adaptable." "They're not weapons," Mira 891 corrected. "That's what makes them so formidable. These are natural defenses that evolved over billions of years. We're not fighting against a designed weapon system. We're fighting against the very processes that shaped life on Earth." As the Zetharians debated their next move, Earth's microscopic defenders continued their work, invisible but vigilant. The bacteria and viruses in the atmosphere passed their new abilities to break down alien technology from generation to generation, preparing for any future encounters. Dr. Chen couldn't know that her research was documenting humanity's first line of defense against alien invasion. But as she studied the endless adaptability of Earth's smallest life forms, she understood that she was witnessing something revolutionary. Nature had created a defense system more sophisticated than any human technology, one that could learn, adapt, and evolve to meet any threat. The Zetharian Empire had never faced a defeat like this. Their mighty warships, once symbols of unstoppable conquest, now hummed back at the edges of Earth's solar system, unable to approach the seemingly primitive planet. In the flagship's Strategic Command Center, Supreme Commander Vex 427 faced the most difficult decision of his centuries-long career. "The evolution chambers are ready," reported Chief Scientist Mira 891, her tentacles moving anxiously as she monitored the experimental data. "We've recreated Earth's atmospheric conditions and introduced samples of their microorganisms. If we can understand how they adapt, perhaps we can finally develop an effective countermeasure." The evolution chambers were massive spherical containers, each holding different variations of their crystal technology exposed to Earth's bacterial samples. Through quantum observation windows, they watched as their supposedly invincible materials slowly succumbed to the relentless assault of microscopic life. "Remarkable," muttered Mira 891, her scientific curiosity temporarily overriding her military duties. "These organisms don't just consume our technology. They're teaching each other how to do it more efficiently." The viral transfer of genetic information creates a kind of distributed intelligence. On Earth, Dr. Chen's research had attracted international attention. Military leaders from around the world gathered in her laboratory, watching in amazement as she demonstrated the bacteria's capabilities. "What you're seeing is unprecedented in biological warfare," she explained, though she had no idea how right she was. "These microorganisms can break down virtually any material we expose them to. They share information, adapt their strategies, and work together in ways we've never seen before." Dr. Rodriguez added, "It's as if they're preparing for something. The rate of evolution we're observing suggests some kind of external stimulus, but we can't identify what's triggering these changes." In orbit around Earth, automated Zetharian probes continue their observation, careful to maintain distances that would protect them from atmospheric contact. The data they gathered painted an increasingly dire picture for the invasion force. "The bacterial adaptation rate is accelerating," Mira 891 reported to the High Council. "Each generation becomes more efficient at breaking down our technology. Even our most recent modifications are being countered within hours of exposure. The Zetharians had tried everything. They'd modified their crystal matrix, introduced new synthetic elements, even attempted to create their own microscopic defenders. Nothing worked. Earth's bacteria simply evolved faster than they could adapt their technology. War Minister Koth 789 pounded his control panel in frustration. There must be a way to sterilize their atmosphere. No primitive world can be allowed to defy the Empire. Any attempt at atmospheric sterilization would be futile. Mira 891 countered. Their bacteria exist in countless layers throughout the atmosphere. Even if we could eliminate 99.9% of them, the survivors would adapt to our weapons and come back stronger. We would only be teaching them new ways to defeat us. In her lab, Dr. Chen made another breakthrough. "Look at this," she called to her team, pointing to her quantum microscope display. The bacteria aren't just breaking down materials. They're incorporating elements from what they consume into their own structures. They're literally building themselves into better defenders using the very things they destroy. What she couldn't know was that those things were pieces of advanced alien technology, and that Earth's microscopic life was turning an interstellar empire's greatest strength into its greatest vulnerability. The Zetharian High Council faced an impossible choice. Their entire civilization was built on the integration of biological and crystalline technology. To fight Earth would mean either abandoning the core of their technological advancement or risking the complete breakdown of their cybernetic systems. "Perhaps," suggested a junior scientist named Tech073, "we should consider that this failure reveals something about our own assumptions. We thought our technology made us superior. But these simple life forms demonstrate that natural evolution can create defenses more sophisticated than anything we've engineered." In the evolution chambers, another batch of modified crystal technology began to deteriorate. The Earth bacteria had already adapted to their latest changes, developing new methods to break down the enhanced materials. It was becoming clear that the Zetharians were fighting against billions of years of evolutionary wisdom. Each failure teaches them, Mira 891 observed. While we struggle to modify our technology, they effortlessly adapt and improve. They don't need research facilities or quantum computers. Their very existence is an endless process of refinement and enhancement. Dr. Chen's research would eventually lead to revolutionary advances in materials science and biotechnology, though she would never know that her discoveries were built on humanity's first contact with alien life. The bacteria she studied had learned from their encounters with Zetharian technology, incorporating those lessons into their very DNA. As the Zetharian fleet retreated further from Earth, they left behind more than just failed invasion plans. They had given Earth's microscopic defenders new challenges to overcome, new materials to adapt to, and new ways to protect their planet. The bacteria would pass these lessons down through countless generations, preparing Earth for whatever might come next from the stars. In the highest spire of the Zetharian capital world, the High Council gathered for an unprecedented announcement. For the first time in their 10,000-year history of conquest, they would declare a planet permanently unconquerable. Supreme Commander Vex 427 stood before them, his once pristine crystalline exoskeleton now bearing the scars of failed adaptation attempts. "The Earth experiments have concluded," he announced, his voice heavy with the weight of defeat. "After 50 attempts to modify our technology, we have failed to overcome their atmospheric defenses. Each failure only makes them stronger." Chief Scientist Mira 891 interfaced with the central display, showing the progression of their defeats. "The Earth organisms don't just adapt, they remember. Each encounter with our technology is encoded into their genetic memory, passed down through generations. They are building an ever-improving defense system using our own innovations against us." On Earth, Dr. Sarah Chen stood before a different kind of council. Representatives from the world's leading scientific institutions had gathered to discuss her team's revolutionary discoveries. "What we're seeing changes everything we thought we knew about bacterial evolution," she explained. unaware that her findings represented humanity's first understanding of their invisible guardians. These microorganisms demonstrate levels of adaptation and cooperation that defy conventional evolutionary theory. Dr. Rodriguez added, "The most remarkable aspect is their ability to break down materials we previously thought indestructible. They're not just consuming these substances, they're learning from them, incorporating new molecular structures into their own biology." In the depths of space, the remaining Zetharian research vessels made one final attempt to understand their defeat. They released a swarm of quantum-shielded probes into Earth's upper atmosphere, hoping to observe the bacteria's adaptation process directly. The probes lasted less than an hour. "Impossible," whispered Pel 044, watching the data stream. The bacteria didn't even need to evolve this time. They already knew exactly how to break down our quantum shielding. They remembered from our previous attempts. The implications shook the foundation of Zetharian military doctrine. Their strategy had always been built on overwhelming technological superiority. But against Earth's microscopic defenders, superior technology wasn't just useless, it was counterproductive. Every new innovation they introduced simply gave the bacteria more knowledge, more capabilities, more ways to defeat them. In her laboratory, Dr. Chen made a discovery that would later be recognized as one of the most important breakthroughs in human history. The bacteria aren't just sharing information through traditional horizontal gene transfer, she announced to her team. They're creating what amounts to a biological database of adaptive strategies. Every new challenge they overcome becomes part of their shared genetic memory. The Zetharian High Council faced a harsh truth. Their mighty empire, which had conquered 37 worlds across 3 galaxies, had been defeated not by advanced weapons or superior strategy, but by the simplest forms of life on their target planet. "We must adapt," declared High Counselor Draz 001, his crystalline form dimming with resignation. "Not our technology, but our understanding. We assumed that advancement meant moving beyond biological limitations. Earth's defenders proved that biology itself can be more sophisticated than any technology we can create." Mira 891, who had spent months studying the Earth bacteria, offered a final observation. "Perhaps this is why we found so few advanced civilizations in our conquests. Any species that survives long enough to achieve interstellar travel must first learn to work with their planet's natural defenses, not against them. Earth's humans don't even realize that they live in perfect symbiosis with their microscopic protectors. The Zetharian Empire would never again attempt to invade Earth. Instead, they began a fundamental transformation of their society. Their scientists started studying ways to work with biological systems rather than trying to dominate them. The crystal technology that had been their greatest pride became a symbol of their greatest lesson. True advancement meant understanding and cooperating with natural systems, not trying to overcome them. On Earth, Dr. Chen's research led to a revolution in biotechnology. Though she never knew the true source of her discoveries, her work on adaptive bacterial systems would eventually help humanity develop their own spacefaring technology. Technology that worked with their microscopic allies rather than trying to exclude them. Years later, when humanity finally achieved interstellar travel, they carried with them an invisible army of protectors, billions of years in the making. The bacteria in Earth's atmosphere had not just defended against one invasion. They had preserved humanity's chance to reach the stars on their own terms, in harmony with the extraordinary evolutionary heritage that made their planet unique in the galaxy. The Zetharians, watching from afar as humans took their first steps into space, recognized something familiar in their approach. Humanity's ships weren't hardened against their own atmosphere's microorganisms. They were designed to work with them, to benefit from their extraordinary adaptive capabilities. In the end, Earth's greatest defense had also become its greatest gift to its children. The understanding that true strength lies not in dominating nature, but in learning from it. The smallest life forms had taught the mightiest empire in 3 galaxies a lesson that would reshape the future of both civilizations.